Good afternoon or good morning, depending from where you are joining us today. Very warm welcome from my side to our today's webinar. My name is Ralf. I'm the CFO of KNIME, and I have the pleasure to be your host during today's webinar. We have great interest into that topic today, more than 400 registrations, which is amazing. So you're all deliberately here today, I guess, for the one or two of you who sort of randomly ended up in that stream. Nothing better to do on a Tuesday afternoon or morning. Let me quickly remind you about the relevance of the subject. And that is about data and finance. So we start with a little bit of a stereotype. We have a poor financial analyst, and we have another stereotype, which is all around Excel, like he doesn't know why it's summing up and not averaging. There is difference of data between two systems, the CPQ system and the ERP system. Bing! There is a message coming in that new data has been uploaded, so the pool guy needs to redo the whole analysis. His boss is popping in, requesting him a very quick and easy analysis, but it's for the board this evening, etc., etc., etc. So you all know that if you work in finance, actually data at the same time is the problem, as well as it is the solution. So in terms of speakers today, next to myself, we do have Mike, who is joining us from the UK, from Grant Thornton, and we have Lisa, data scientist at KNIME. Mike, do you want to briefly introduce yourself, please?
Thanks, Ralph. So yeah, I'm Mike. I'm from GT UK, and I'm looking forward to talking about GT's journey with KNIME.
Thank you very much, Mike. And we'll bring you back in later for the use case that you will share with us. And then we have here in Constance, Lisa. Why don't you join me here, Lisa?
Hi, everyone.
Say hello as well.
Yeah, hi, I'm Lisa. I'm a data scientist here at KNIME. And yeah, I'm going to talk to you about some AI later.
Great. So thank you very much. And let's quickly look to what we plan to cover today. Starting with like the problem statement, what challenges typically do we see around data in finance? And then, of course, look to how data analytics and AI can help solve those challenges. Look to how KNIME can be one of the tools helping in finance, and then get to the practical part of it. Mike will share how Grant Thornton is using KNIME for finance, and Lisa will have quite an interesting one using Gen AI to basically enrich fraud detection, and then leaving a bit of time at the very end for answering your questions. Now, let's look to the challenges. They shouldn't be a big surprise to you. They are not a surprise to me, of course, because A, I did the presentation, and B, I'm since 20 years as a CFO in the tech area. I picked 4 challenges. The first one being still a lot of time is spent on actually generating data. That could be anything from collecting, from aggregating data, and not enough time is left to basically work with the data, creating insights at the end of the day, because that's what counts, moving from data to decision. Next challenge then is, frankly, finance is not usually an early adopter of tech. Traditional tools that are used in finance, like spreadsheets, they are error prone, and usually also cannot really handle large volumes. Next challenge being, certainly there is no shortage of data. It's the opposite. Amount of data is exploding. There are like statistics saying every 2 to 4 years, amount of data in finance is doubling. And there are like various reasons for that. Tech is one reason. So AI, blockchain is contributing to that. Digital transformation is contributing to that. Regulatory requirements. We Europeans are great at that. Think about ESG. In Germany, we have a fantastic word, which is Lieferketten-Sorgfaltspflichtengesetz, amazing word. So all of that is contributing to exploding data. No shortage of data, but shortage of skilled resources in finance, especially those with data literacy skills. And then lastly, finance historically was a gatekeeper of financial data. More and more, finance is moving to be a gatekeeper of any data inside the company, financial and non-financial data. Now, challenges or problem understood. How now could data analytics and AI help? Again, probably not a great surprise. Three main helpers, so to speak: productivity, quality, and then scalability. Productivity, of course, data analytics and AI can help increasing productivity, getting stuff automated, does save time. It will help focus on insights rather than on generating data. It also will make, therefore, life more interesting and be more rewarding to people, also more rewarding to the company, and therefore also can help with the shortage of skilled workforce, as mentioned earlier. Then in terms of quality, of course, it is less error prone if we have a traceable way, basically, to work with data. There is much less, maybe not even manual intervention needed. And of course, you all know that you have this one brilliant guy who manipulates Excel extremely well. He leaves and no one else is able to use it anymore. So less dependency on individuals as well. And it's scalable. It can handle, which is a limitation with spreadsheets, millions of data, thousands of users, especially no-code tool like KNIME helps to really adopt that technology inside the company. And typically those tools are able to connect, we will see that later, with several input as well as then output tools. So very clear benefits how data analytics and AI can help. However, still many people are hesitant adopting technology. Why is that? And to me, there are two main drivers for that. The first one being the abundance of options. People are overwhelmed. There are so many tools out there. It's difficult to make a choice. So many people end up doing nothing. That's reason one. And then reason two is basically that people fear complexity. And that's another reason, therefore, again, not to do anything. And that, of course, needs to be addressed with simplicity, easy to use tools, where KNIME is an example, which I will quickly run you through benefits of KNIME as a data analytics / AI tool. So first benefit being it's an open source tool, therefore has a very rich community helping with innovation. And that community also, of course, helps with like support of any kind. You can collaborate with that community. Second, it is a no-code tool, and you see the user interface here with a very easy-to-use user interface, visual workflows. So basically, time to adopt the tool is very quick, and you don't need coding skills to use that tool, and therefore doesn't really require specialized or highly specialized skill set. Then, as already mentioned, many integration capabilities. You can connect to like ERP systems such as SAP, to a cloud-based database like Snowflake, to local files, of course, and you can connect to output tools as well, like visualization tools such as Power BI or Tableau. And it can handle millions of data sets and thousands of users. And it is a sophisticated tool. It not only helps with data analytics, there also is data science, so machine learning, regression analysis is possible using KNIME, as well as that it does have built-in AI functionality, helping you build workflows on the one side, and then also helping govern AI usage, which is great news, especially for, think about central IT departments. What we did also to help you get started quickly is a so-called KNIME for Finance collection. So we have a couple of use cases that always consist of a video, of a blog, and a workflow. And you see that we basically touched all the relevant teams in finance, from accounting to FP&A to audit compliance to tax. And then we also have financial services and like cross-functional KPI calculation in there. Again, a nice help to get you started real quick using KNIME. Now, enough having me talking. Let's move to two practical examples. First one will be shared by Mike. Really, Mike, looking very much forward to your experience in Grant Thornton and to your use case.
Thank you, Ralph. Yeah, so I'm Mike at Grant Thornton UK, and I lead our digital products team. So I've gone from a trained accountant to working in financial modeling teams, FP&A teams, to data analytics, and hence my involvement in KNIME. So I'm going to talk about GT's journey with KNIME, how it fits into our strategy, how it's aided innovation and progression within GT UK, and then go through a bit of a use case in finance, how we use it internally and how we use it for our clients, and then some other quite interesting use cases that we've found. So we use KNIME at GT based on 3 core tenets for our adoption. So number 1 being analytical depth. So KNIME is extremely capable, as well as being easy to pick up and having a low barrier to entry, as Ralph has said. It is on the bleeding edge of technology. So we can be sure when we're using KNIME, we both have a tool that is easy for us to use, but also pushes us in terms of technological advances and analytical capability. It's a complete platform, so it enables us to build, to manage, to deploy all in one place. It can talk to lots of systems. It can sit between databases and front ends like our Power BI and Tableau, and is extremely capable in that area. It is scalable, so we work with lots of clients, big and small, and it allows us to have very large cloud-based instances or on-premises instances, just using a free desktop version. So we are constantly trying to innovate at GT, and KNIME has been a massive enabler for us to do that. So I'll talk to these 4 points of how it's providing innovation. So it allows us to really quickly and effectively create value, so we can spin up new products and services really quickly. And we have over 900 users in GT UK of KNIME now, and each of those people have a license for KNIME and can be building stuff themselves. So it allows a massive amount of value creation. And it allows us to do that in a protected and controlled way. So using the KNIME Hub, using the cloud instance, we can control what people are doing, what people are deploying, and make sure the right stuff is going to our clients, and we're using the right stuff internally as well. It is a really modern way of working. It allows easy collaboration between our developers, our system developers, our mainstay developers, and is really pushing our digital first mentality. And I think probably most importantly, it's really providing tangible operational efficiency. So we use KNIME internally, and we can see that it's improving our processes, and it's making our lives easier and allowing more time to do the value add activities and less on the sort of laborious process driven stuff that takes up a lot of time, especially in finance. So as Ralph alluded to, it's KNIME is well suited for finance, and it stretches across all our sort of key areas in the finance function. And it is especially useful in month-end process. So repeatable monthly processes are really sort of suited to KNIME, where you can build a flow and you can run it over and over again. So I'm going to talk to the month-end reconciliation process briefly. And if you work in finance, you'll probably be familiar with this. So this is us reconciling our trial balance to journals, and this could be reconciling trial balance to bank, or any comparison of data sets. And you can see here, my flow is set out in a hopefully quite a simplistic manner. You can see it travels from left to right. It's organized into these different sections that are annotated, so I can see exactly what's happening across each point in my flow. And I can see on the left, I start with my input data. And this is just reading from CSVs, but I can read from databases, I can read from applications. I can then transform my data in a very controlled manner, so I can see exactly who has been running this flow, when it's been running, the output of it, which is usually lost in Excel, where you have people building their own workbooks, doing pivot tables, running macros without necessarily the control and governance that you need in a finance function. So if I zoom into this process journal node, so up here I've got a node, and I can build other nodes within that component. So it neatens up my flow. I've got elements in here that group data, they split data, they trim the data, they join it, so they replace my XLOOKUPs, my VLOOKUPs, my index matches, and they do it in a really neat, controllable way. And one of the nodes that I find particularly useful, having come from an Excel background and using index matches and VLOOKUPs, is the joiner node. So that replaces those potentially risky functions in Excel with a really neat component that allows you to clearly see dataset A, dataset B, we're joining on this particular value, and the output is this, and you can see it as we walk across the flow. So in finance, we find loads of applications where we are comparing data sets. We're taking data from system A and we're converting it, we're manipulating it into the right format for system B, whether that's another finance system, be it Venna, or it's a visualization software like Power BI or Tableau. So as well as sort of the day-to-day monthly flows, we've found a huge use for KNIME in other slightly different use cases, and we've been able to build some quite sophisticated tools. So I'll just talk to a few of those now. We obviously do a lot of auditing in our firm, and we often have to do complex sampling methods, and we've been able to build flows that encapsulate quite complicated Python scripts and can distribute them to our auditors so they can use them. So within one of those nodes, I can write a detailed sampling script in Python and give that to my team to use. So it's, as well as being able to build stuff easily with components, I can write more complicated scripts within Python, within SQL, within R, and package them into really easy to work KNIME workflows. We do a lot of work on pay reporting recently, and for some companies, gender pay gap reporting is a statutory requirement. So we've been able to build a flow that effectively takes payroll data and converts it based on government guidelines, and then produces a really great Power BI report to show how a firm's gender pay gap system is working. We've been able to utilize some great tools from Azure Document Intelligence, so processing PDFs and even handwritten invoices, and extract information from them and move them into a database in a really controlled manner. So rather than someone physically going through an invoice and picking out the amount, the invoice ID, we can do that automatically within a KNIME workflow. We've been able to do some great stuff around training machine learning models on news articles. So looking at competitors and seeing what news articles are coming out about them, and building a model that summarizes that for us in a really easy manner. And we'll get on to talking about machine learning and AI a lot more, but with in KNIME, it gives us the ability to really easily use sort of the cutting edge on machine learning and AI without necessarily having a PhD in machine learning and statistics, which is hugely useful. So as Ralph alluded to, there's an amazing community around KNIME, and something we've been able to leverage massively. So as well as sort of our 900 odd users, we can call upon the entire international community of KNIME and search for pre-built workflows. And in finance, you'll find hundreds of these where someone has already had the problem and they've built a workflow, and we can use that as a starting point for our own work. And there are some great articles that talk about these workflows, some quite niche and complex workflows, but great food for thought. And actually at GT, we run a Finance with KNIME workshop where we talk in detail about the month-end procedures and how we can build that all into KNIME into a really repeatable and auditable workflow, which has been a really popular course and really shows off the capability of KNIME in finance. So with that, I'll hand you back to Ralph. We'll go on to the next talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Very interesting, very broad use cases. You really have adopted KNIME quite extensively, which is great to see. So thanks again a lot, and we'll bring you up back later to the Q&A section. Thank you.
Cheers.
Now we have Lisa as the next part, and Lisa will share how to use basically GenAI or have GenAI supported for fraud detection.
All right. Thanks, Ralph. Just go back one. Thanks, Ralph. And again, hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Lisa. I'm working at KNIME as a data scientist and data science publisher. And yeah, in the next couple of minutes, I am going to talk about a very common use case in finance or in auditing departments, which is fraud detection. But I assume that most of you or many of you will probably more or less know what fraud detection is and what the process involves, and also why it's done and how it's done. So I don't want to talk about fraud detection as the process in general, but I want to rather talk about how AI, or more specifically GenAI, can be used to enrich the fraud detection process. So I guess we are all aware that, well, since what, a year, 1.5 years, there's AI applications, GenAI applications. They're now everywhere, basically. There are tons of use cases out there where we use AI or AI applications to make things more efficient, to make things faster or better. And yeah, when we're looking at it from this perspective, we were actually asking ourselves, are also finance departments ready for GenAI? And yeah, what shall I say? We tried it out. We took this very basic fraud detection workflow we have, a fraud detection use case we have. And yeah, we are observing 2 ways how we could integrate GenAI into that. And yeah, I would say, let's see what came out of that. So maybe just to recap that we're all on the same page. So what you see here in that slide is a general, let's say the general overview of a generic fraud detection process. So it's not only banks who do fraud detection, but it's in finance departments, or if it's a bigger company, maybe a different department, a specific auditing unit that is taking care of it. But the overall idea or the overall goal is that someone in a company, in a business, is monitoring transactions or documents, contracts, all kind of business processes, basically, with the goal to detect suspicious transactions or suspicious things, basically. If we just go for the example now with the transactions, then let's say, yeah, we're trying to find a suspicious transactions. And if we find one, we want to immediately contact our client. And ideally, we want to send an email alert. And even better, if we're in an internationally operating business, we want to send out this email in the client's language. So let's just take this as the basic example for a fraud detection. So how can GenAI be useful here? Well, option 1 or option A would be we can use GenAI for the actual fraud detection. So we can use GenAI to, well, detect the frauds. Or option B would be we can use GenAI to generate those email alerts in the different languages. So those are the two options we have, or the two options we observed. Now let's just start with option 1, option A, and check the outlier detection part. Now, maybe just as a very quick recap, what's an outlier? What you can see here on the slide or in the scatter plot is a data set, tons of data points, and almost all of them belong to a certain cluster. So somehow those data points are, well, not that well. Somehow those are similar enough that they can be clustered to one another. However, there is this one data point on the far right that cannot be assigned to any cluster, and this would be an outlier. How do we detect those outliers? So the visualization would be one technique, as you have just seen right now. But there are other techniques, depending on what kind of data you have, how complex it is. There are some basic statistics, outlier detection techniques. If you have more complicated or like more dimensional data, then you can use a more sophisticated machine learning or even deep learning approach. If you have nominal data, you can do string similarity search, apply string similarity metrics. So yeah, there are all kinds of ways how to detect it. What we want to show now for this webinar is one statistics-based outlier detection. So this would be the classic approach. If we check the statistics out, or just finding outliers through statistics approach, there is a technique called interquartile range technique. Yeah, it's very common, basic statistics. So what you do there is you basically divide your data set into quartiles. So this means you first of all split your data set in half, you find your median, split it in half, you have an upper and a lower half, and then you continue this, do it again for the upper and lower part so that you find the first quartile and the third. So on the slide, this is the Q1 and the Q3. So those are basically the medians of the upper half and the lower half. And then what you're trying to do is you're trying to find those upper and lower boundaries, so to say, or like the max and min boundary. And everything that is above the max boundary or below the minimum boundary, this is then considered an outlier. And on the right of this slide, you can see more or less how we determine that. So those max and min boundaries, they are detected based on the first and third quartile, respectively, based on the interquartile range, which is the difference between the first and third quartile, and based on this interquartile range multiplier, which we call K. And this you can choose or define yourself. So K just has to be a positive number, but yeah, you can choose any number for K. Usually it's 1.5. And actually the value of K influences how many outliers you might detect. If there is a larger K, those whiskers, they increase, hence you will find less outliers, and the other way around. So your detection technique becomes more or less, let's say, sensitive or strict. So this is the theoretical part. How do we do that in KNIME? Well, in KNIME, we have one node for that. We have the numeric outliers node. And with this node, you can implement the interquartile range technique. It has a few configurations in a configuration dialog, but it's relatively easy to apply. And well, yeah, it's one node. If we add it to one of our workflows or to our workflows, it would look like this. So you would have the first part is just your data accessing, you read in your data, and then you just add this one node and yeah, what it does, it finds the outliers. In our case, because I know the data underneath, so this numeric outliers node will find two data rows basically, which are our two outliers. Yeah, this is how we do it in KNIME, the classic approach. Now, I said I want to talk more about AI or GenAI. So let's have a look how we could find the outliers with GenAI. So the thing is, in KNIME, if you do AI prompting, if you want to just do a very simple AI prompting, you need at least 3 nodes, which is authenticate, connect, and prompt. So on the screenshots, you see this is an example. If you want to connect to a model provided by OpenAI, you'd have the OpenAI authenticator node, where you need the credentials for. You have an OpenAI LLM connector node, and then you have the LLM prompter node. So this is the bare minimum you need, and you need a prompt. And usually this prompt, so you can create a prompt either with a table creator node or a string manipulator node. There are different ways how you could create this prompt into prompt engineering, but let's say you need those 3 nodes plus a node that creates your prompt. Now, the thing is, we tried it out, and in our use case, which is a bit more complicated, we even need a bit more nodes. We need to pre-process our data. We need to bring our data into the correct format, and we have to do a bit of more advanced prompt engineering. So in our use case, if we want to find outliers with GenAI, it would look like here on the slide. So you do see the 3 AI nodes, the authenticate, connect, and prompt node. But then there is also this pre-processing meta node, which actually hides some of the complexity because in it are a couple of nodes you need just to bring the data in the correct format. And you have the string manipulator node, and that creates your prompt. So the thing is, it works. Yes, we were able to detect outliers that way. So this LLM prompter node respond to us and, well, identified a couple of outliers. However, there's a few downsides to that approach. Well, one thing is that we noticed whenever you change the prompt just a tiny bit, you might get different results, a different result from the LLM. Sometimes we got 2 outliers, sometimes we got 4. So it's not 100% reliable because you really, well, need to be very specific with the prompt. We also noticed, or that's the thing, LLMs are like black boxes. So we don't really know, so we don't really have any transparency. We don't really know how exactly those outliers are, well, identified as outliers. We don't have any reasoning behind it. It's hard to find that out when using or prompting LLMs. Another downside is that we need this pre-processing and ideally also post-processing. So compared to the very classic approach we just saw before, we need, well, the workflow here is just heavier. It needs more nodes. It's a heavier workflow. So compared to the numeric outliers node, it's just more work. And also one very last thing, as I said before, when you do a interquartile range technique to detect outliers, you can identify your interquartile range multiplier, the K. Here, with when prompting LLMs, you don't really have the chance to fine-tune or like to well, to steer your results a bit or your outlier detection technique a bit. You can fine-tune your model, but you can't really tell the model how strict it should detect outliers or how sensitive it should be. So all in all, using GenAI for outlier detection, yes, it works, but maybe it's better to use GenAI for more text-related tasks because all in all, that's what the LLMs are very good with. Now, concluding that, option A, well, works but not ideal. Maybe let's go for option B then. How about we use GenAI to generate those email texts, especially when we have customers with different languages? How would we do that? So remember, when we do AI prompting with KNIME, we need the 3 nodes, authenticate, connect, prompt, and we need a prompt telling the LLM what to do or what we want. Now, we also tried that approach, and here's how it would look like if we implemented in KNIME. So as I said, maybe it's better to stick with a numeric outliers approach. So what you can see on the slide here is a workflow where we use the numeric outliers node. We get our 2 outliers, and based on those results, we create a prompt that asks or prompts an LLM to create 2 email alert texts. What do we get here? The result we get from the LLM prompter node, and those are, in our case, those 2 emails here. One email is in English because it's an English customer. The other email is in Russian because it's a Russian customer. What we told the LLM, maybe I can just hide that again. So what we told the LLM, or what we did in the string manipulator node, you can see we created the prompt, and it was something along the lines like we asked the model to create this fraud detection email alert for customer X in language Y, using the contract ID as information and all the other information we had about the customer. And this is what the model came up with. I mean, given the fact that maybe we don't speak all the languages, it's, I think, pretty cool that we can now relatively easy create email texts in different languages. Now, maybe one thing, if you think, well, this email text, or in general, this prompt generates emails that are too generic, maybe it's not enough, maybe it's not detailed enough. There is a technique which is called RAG, which you could use. So RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And what RAG is doing, or what you can do with it, it allows you to add additional context to the prompt. So you basically can add documents, images, videos, something like that. You can collect it in the so-called knowledge base. So everything what you think is useful for the model or for the prompt. And that helps you to create a more specific response by the LLM. So, and also, like, as a rule of thumb, what you can think is the more specific the prompt, the more specific the response. It might not be better, but the more specific at least. We also tried that. And here's a screenshot of how it would look like in the KNIME workflow. So what you can see, we still have our numeric outliers node as before. We still have our 3 AI node basic construct, which is the authenticate, connect, and prompt node. And we still have the string manipulator node feeding our prompt to the LLM prompter node. But what happens before inside this yellow square is this RAG process. So what we do here in a nutshell is we take, in our case, lots of PDF documents where we have definitions of different contract types. So we have more information, and we embed this. We create a so-called vector store, and then we're using those information that we, well, basically just added to the workflow or to our process, and we take those information and use that to enrich the prompt created in this string manipulator node. So it might sound a bit, well, it might sound a bit much, but just imagine you need, or you take more information, more context, and with that enrich your prompt. So the LLM now understands even better what we want and has more information and can create a more detailed response. So in our case, what it is doing, this is now just a screenshot of the English email, but it's doing the same thing for the Russian email. What we have here is an additional paragraph now, which is defining the contract type of this customer. But of course, you can use any other information as well here, but this just serves as an example. All right. Well, coming back to my opening question here, now that we have seen what to do with GenAI and what maybe not to do with GenAI, are finance departments ready for GenAI? Maybe later Ralph can also say something about it. I mean, he's the CFO here, but from my point of view as a data scientist, I would say yes, finance departments are ready, but depending on the task. So for text-related tasks like this, generating those emails in different languages, I would say GenAI definitely works. It's really powerful to do things like that. However, we also saw that depending on the task, GenAI might not be as beneficial. So sometimes those classic data analysis techniques, they might be simpler, they might be more transparent, and even less costly than, well, using a fancy GenAI approach. So yeah, all in all, I'm sorry, wrong clicker. All in all, I would say yes, finance departments are ready, but before you are implementing your AI solution, maybe you should check the pros and cons against just the normal approach. And yeah, with that, I'm actually reaching the end of my part. Before I'm wrapping up, or before I'm handing over back to Ralph for the Q&A, I'm going to wrap up the session real quick. I want to give you a few tips for if you want to get started with KNIME or KNIME for Finance, like right after this webinar now. So first of all, what I want to point you to, if you want to get started with KNIME for Finance, visit the KNIME Community Hub. Mike mentioned it already. We have a KNIME for Finance space there, as well as a KNIME for Finance collection page. And in both, like on the page and in the space, you find ready-to-use solutions. You find blueprint workflows for all kind of finance tasks. Also, I want to point you to this KNIME for Finance cheat sheet. There you find the most important and most common notes you would need for if you want to get started with finance or KNIME for Finance. But we also have other cheat sheets, also for beginners if you're new, or if you're coming from a spreadsheet tool, or we also have from Alteryx to KNIME cheat sheet, which might be beneficial. So everything we have, you find on knime.com/KNIMEpress. That's free and available for download. Also, we have this new book. It was released, I think, like 2 weeks ago. It's a collection of finance use cases. It's called KNIME Automation and AI, the KNIME for Finance collection. Also, this book is free, and you find it on knime.com/KNIMEpress, together with many other books we have. If you transition from a different tool, if you want to learn KNIME, we have textbooks and all kind of other technical and use case collections. The last finance-related or finance-specific resource we have is our KNIME for Finance YouTube playlist, which contains educational videos that are accompanying all the blog posts, or the finance blog posts we have on the KNIME blog. You find it on the KNIME TV YouTube channel. There is also other contents like webinar recordings. We have other educational videos, data science tutorials, and much more. And last but not least, I just want to point out there's different learning paths. So if you want to get started, either completely new or if you have already some KNIME experience, you can choose one of those learning paths, whether you're a data analyst, data scientist, or data engineer, and you can learn KNIME from level 1 to level 4. We have self-paid courses, but also instructor-led courses. And lastly, we have the KNIME certification exams, where you can get certified from level 1 to level 4. And yeah, one last thing I forgot. I want to point you also to the forum. If you have any questions or problems, feel free to always go to the forum, check for an answer there, or find help there, or ask your question there. And yeah, with that, now I'm really at the end of my presentation. Thanks everyone already for watching and listening, and handing back over to you, Ralph, for the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Lisa. And you did ask me a question. Our finance department's ready for Gen AI. I said at the beginning of my part, typically finance is not an early adopter of tech, but I definitely think that yes, finance is ready and has a need for Gen AI. So for you now to get ready to our Q&A session, remember you have that little button at the top left. Pose any question that you have, and we'll do our best to answer that. While you do so, let me quickly conclude from my point of view our webinar. So the first part, I think, was around data and the agreement that it's not about data, it's about insight or intelligence. So from data to decision, insight and intelligence supporting decisions. And that basically is a combination, those insights or intelligence, between tool and skills. So it needs both. And it needs simplicity. That's also, I think, what we realized. And there, KNIME can be a great help as a low-code, no-code tool with all the rich community as support that we do have. So we do encourage you to try out KNIME, to realize that technology can actually be a facilitator and not a barrier. So you don't need to fear complexity. And then hopefully you can realize the title of our webinar, Data and Analytics and AI in Finance Made Easy. That would be our goal. So now really looking forward to questions that you may have, and we will do our best to answer those. And I've seen one question earlier, and that was related, I think, to Mike, to yourself and experience within Thornton of adopting a tool like KNIME. So you could tell us a little bit around like experience made of adopting that tool, user feedback which you have received potentially, and maybe also about the support that KNIME has been offering.
Yeah, sure. So I think, first of all, the point you made earlier, Ralph, there are tons of tools on the market, so it's not easy to know which tool to get in when you're stepping into systems and analytics. And we really felt KNIME was the right tool for us. And it lends itself to finance, so it is perfectly suited to replace and enhance some spreadsheets that you may use in finance. So I think that was probably the core reason that we've gone for KNIME, and our adoption has been great internally. We've, like I said earlier, we've got over 900 users using it now, and we've done that by showcasing its capability. We run our own hackathons and workshops in KNIME, which go down really well. And for our clients, it's a great tool. It's got a really low barrier to entry, so it's really easy to pick up. There is a free to use version, a desktop version, and the support network, as you said, Ralph, it has been great. There's the community that we can sort of self-serve with, and also working with KNIME closely. Any challenges and questions that we've had, it's been really easy to talk to KNIME and work things out, and hence why we've had such a great adoption, and we're able to offer it to our clients and build such useful tools.
Okay, good to hear. Thank you, Mike. Now, one question that probably fits well to, Lisa, what you have been speaking about Gen AI. Question is about how easy it is to connect to open source LLMs, whether locally running or in the cloud, to avoid sensitive data leaking to the rest of the world. Lisa, do you want to take that?
Yes. So, for example, what you can do, and what I have not mentioned in this presentation is, well, first of all, we have this AI extension, and this has more than just the nodes I've shown to you in the screenshot. So it's more than just OpenAI Connect or OpenAI node models. You can also connect to all kinds of models. And for example, what you can also do is connect to local models, for example, via Llama. Now, when it comes to sensitive data, I would say that's a different topic. This rather goes in the direction of data governance or AI governance. So there are, well, different options what you can do. So for example, when you're just working with KNIME Analytics platform, well, there, what you can do to ensure that no sensitive data is sent to a model or not, you could maybe use some sort of like components or stuff that encrypt your, that encodes your data, that yeah, make sure that no sensitive data is sent or used in the prompt. However, what you can also do if you're using a KNIME Business Hub, there you can actually blacklist models. So if you're the team's manager on the Business Hub, you can restrict the usage of certain models, and you could also set up processes to make sure that before the data is sent to or prompt to an LLM, that it goes through a certain workflow that makes sure that no sensitive data is sent there. So yeah, those are the options. Yeah.
Cool. Another question talks about the understanding that KNIME is an open source, a free product. Is there also a paid version? And if so, what are the respective benefits? So yes, KNIME is an open source free software that you can download at KNIME.com for free, get started quickly, and that offers you basically data analytics as well as data science capabilities, such as machine learning. And then on top of that, yes, we do offer a paid product for commercial customers, several AP users, to basically do deployment at scale. And that offers on top to the free version things like scheduled execution. So whatever, every Monday morning, 6 o'clock, you read in production data into your workflow. It also offers governance, which is a great help to central IT departments, for example. And then we have data apps that are a great way to share data easily inside an organization. So probably looking to the time, I suggest we conclude that session. Mike, thank you very much. It was great having you today. Thanks for participating. And we would conclude the session. It's always great if you would drop us a review. So feel free to do so on TrustRadar. If you want to review about KNIME as a software experience you made with KNIME, sorry, the wrong button. Maybe Lisa, you want to quickly talk about any upcoming events that we have?
Yes, maybe just as a advertisement for our next events. So we do have 2 KNIME data hubs scheduled. There's one in London on September 10. And one in Boston. And also, I want to highlight here, we do have a KNIME for Finance Roadshow, which are smaller regional Data Connect community events. We have one for Munich, for London, and for Stockholm coming up soon. So those events are in person. So I don't know from where you guys are joining. I don't know yet. I might find out later. But if you're close to one of those cities, feel free to come by. And so I will be there, and other people from the KNIME community, and yeah, those events are targeting finance. And also we have our KNIME Spring Summit coming up next year in March, so you can already sign up for that as well.
Great, thank you. And then obviously in general, we would love to stay connected, stay in touch, using the button, using the channels which you see, joining one of the events that Lisa has just shown. That would be fantastic. Thank you very much for your attendance and for your interest today in a lively webinar. Thanks again to Mike. Thanks a lot to Lisa. Thanks to the KNIMers behind the scenes supporting. Thank you very much for your time. It was great. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining.